Okay, now we can hear from the permit holders. You have 3 minutes of rebuttal.
Good evening. My name is Muriel Maffrey. I'm one of the
I think you have to move the, I'm sorry to interrupt, move the microphone. Thank you.
Can you hear me now better? All right. Benjamin Pierce and I are not developers. We are, however, artists and San Francisco residents. I've lived and worked in the city for more than 20 years now, and Ben has lived and worked in the city for 15 years. We have demonstrated care and willingness in our efforts to reach out to the community and work with the department. We gained the support of the Planning Commission and all the neighbors except one. Why did we get the support of the Planning Department and the community? Well, what we are proposing is reasonable. The Planning Commissioners were unanimous in recognizing the modest nature of the project, and neighbors are commending our effort to maintain an open space at the front of the lot. The main idea behind this project is to create a home that is affordable and that is respectful to the community and the environment. This task in itself was a challenge considering the parameters, an urban setting, an infill lot, and a pre-existing structure. While developing the project, we have educated ourselves on best environmental practices, the benefits of compact housing, and moderate urban development. We strongly believe that the project embraces the values promoted by these practices, and because of it, fits within the city's general plan. The appellant first argues that the project does not comply with all standards and requirements of the planning code, specifically with the findings of the residential design team. The department established that the residential design guidelines used by the residential design team is an inadequate document to evaluate rear set cottages. The department also describes the subject neighborhood as follow: primarily two-story single-family dwellings, a mix of architectural styles with no unifying design character, an irregular street wall, and a disrupted mid-block open space. Benjamin and I aim to come up to par with the rest of the neighborhood houses by turning the diminutive cottage into a two-story house and creating a design which complies with the mix of architectures found in the neighborhood. Also, considering the age of the existing property, we opted to preserve the rear set design of the property as its principal identifying feature. Furthermore, the project is consistently described as modest in size and scale by the 7 planning commissioners. Most importantly, the vertical additions sits in front of the rear setback line. And finally, the project remains 35% smaller than the appellant's neighboring house. I believe that there are outstanding evidences that the planning commissioners were sensible to all the issues at hand and clearly justified their findings during their deliberation. I would like to respectfully ask to the board to reject the appellant's appeal and uphold the permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Scott Sanchez, Planning Department. Just a few final points that I'd like to make. First, there was an associated variance decision with this for rear yard variance that was issued almost a year ago in December of 2009 and was not subsequently appealed. In regards to the timing of the residential design team review, on page 3 of the discretionary view analysis, which is contained in the appellant's brief, it's on page 3 of this paragraph 4, it clearly states that the residential design team review was triggered by the discretionary review request. So that was the timing that we did the notice first, DR was filed, and then that triggered the review by the residential design team and the subsequent recommendation of the department. Further, just like to point out, I'm sure the board's already aware of this, that the adjacent property, the appellant's property, is located to the south of the subject property. So one would imagine that there would not be much impact in terms of light and air. Additionally, it's set back substantially from the side property line. Full length of the depth of the building, it's set back 5.5 feet from the side property line, and this is not an exceptionally wide lot. They have a very narrow building. I think that their building is a little bit less than 20 feet wide. So I think, while yes, it is a probably doubling the size of the building, it was a very small cottage to begin with, and this is something that is necessary to modernize the building, to make it more livable and habitable. And it, as the permit holders pointed out, all the issues regarding the conscientiousness that they have in the environmental design. It's less of a footprint, so less of a impermeable surface on the lot. They have the rainwater catchment system that's proposed and the solar system that's proposed. So they have made numerous efforts to try to minimize impacts on this, not only design on the neighbors, but also impact on the environment. And it's for those reasons that the Planning Commission found that the project was supportable, unanimously upheld it, and it is the Planning Commission's decision. They're the final arbiter in our realm for the residential design guidelines. So with that, I respectfully request you uphold their decision. I'm available for questions.
So this little cottage in the rear, is that little cottage, I'm sorry, I think this is in your briefs, and I didn't understand it. It's a non-conforming building, and it was my understanding from other cases that you've said that one cannot improve a non-conforming building.
You're exactly right, and that's what they received the variance for last year.
That's the variance, okay.
Exactly.
And then, so what is the planning department's view of what will happen to the diminutive cottages in the city if then, by your analysis, they would be allowed to become hyper-modern, larger, your language was more livable buildings?
I think design, I think, there's no formula to it. We can't have a cookie-cutter application to it. We would look at each one individually. It is that if a small cottage comes in that actually is a historic resource, we would have, I think, a different approach to our review. But we feel that we did review this appropriately and applied the appropriate requirements.
And who were the commissioners who spoke below?
There were numerous members.
The former commissioners, who spoke during public comment.
I believe Mr. Ingman was one of the members, was one of the people listed on the variance decision letter. And not a recent planning commission member, though.
It's not too recent. I think he left the commission 19 years ago.
And I think, the full list is available in Exhibit A of appellant's brief. At the bottom, it lists all the speakers who were at the hearing. And I believe,
got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are probably 10 or 15 or so people who spoke in support of the project, and I think 3 who spoke in support of the DR.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cornfield, anything further? Okay. Commissioners, the matter is before you.
So I think I need to put something on the record, although I've been sitting here trying to figure out how I know appellants, and I still don't know, and I didn't recognize the name, but I know them from somewhere. Yes. Is that not right? Yes. We don't need to talk about what school, but I have a feeling that it's through that, yeah. So it obviously won't affect my review of the case since I couldn't place it, but I felt like I should put it on the record. So I'll start talking since I'm already talking. I'll keep talking since I'm already talking. So my sense of this project, looking at these pictures, is that the residential design team initially got it right, and that it's unfortunate we didn't have that variance for the improvement of the nonconforming building in front of us when it happened. I think that to take a tiny little precious cottage like this and expand it in that way is incorrect and doesn't and shouldn't conform with the residential design guidelines. I also think that these buildings that are built, I think Commissioner Fung made reference to this in a different part of town, but in this part of town that are built sort of set back like that, and they were built 100 years ago, that if we don't protect that, then we will end up with a city that doesn't have any of those cottages. And I can understand wanting to expand your building if you're living in it and you 600 square feet is not enough for you, you want to expand it. But we've had cases before us where we say, well, maybe it doesn't make sense to buy such a small building if actually you want one that's so much bigger. So those are my comments for now.